Welcome back to my channel. For the last few days we've been busting our ass on that one over there, so that's all up and running, but it's time to get back into this one. Now, last time we looked at this, I replaced the ECU, but started and then died and I couldn't restart it. So we take a dive into that and try and get this going and try and sort out these brakes. Anyway, enjoy. So I've just gone and picked up these injectors. I did get 4 of them, but I'm only replacing the primaries. One of these is dead and the other one is a little bit sticky. So that's the reason why this didn't start. So we actually went through, pulled the whole manifold off, ran the ECU through its cycle thing to see what was working, and the primary injectors weren't going. So I thought maybe it's the injector drive out of the ECU, but plugging one of the secondary injectors into the primary injector wiring, it worked. So then we went ahead and bench tested these injectors here, and one was sticky and one just had no life. So I went on a mad mission to find these ones. These are 1000cc injectors. I believe the secondary injectors on this are 1600s, and so those should be enough to get it started. So what I'll do now is I'll go through, seat the injectors. I will quite possibly plug the ECU back in, do another test to see if they're firing with that wiring. If they are, then I'll put the whole thing back together. Then we'll go for a startup. But yeah, so far so good. Also, we will hit these brakes. Now this master here has been gone through, and we have bench bled it. So the only thing I have to do now is just go to each corner and bleed them all, and hopefully we've got some brake pedal this time. So far, we're just bleeding the master. The pedal feels a lot better than it has ever. So hopefully today's the day that we can put a pin in it. So just doing the test now. That's firing, that's firing, that's firing, that's firing. Okay, time to put it all back together. Okay, so primary injectors all back in, all nice and snug. They're sealed up quite nicely. But now I'll go ahead and do all the rest, and before we put fuel to it, well, we'll do a test to see if they're all firing still, and then I'll put the fuel pump relay back in, turn that on, see if it's leaking anywhere, and if it's all good to go, we'll go for fire up. Okay, pretty sure it's all bolted back up now. The vacuum lines are run, so I will now do that test again, see if they're still firing. Then I'll do the fuel test, and if that's all good, we'll try and start it up. Okay, we had a little bit of a fuel leak, but I've just adjusted that bottom rail, so hopefully it's all good. I just cycled it through then, and yeah, it seemed all right. So I think we'll go for startup. I hope this starts. Okay, she's well out of tune. I think it's dumping too much fuel. That's smoky as hell in there. You can't really see it, but it's bad. So I'm going to alter the mix trim and drop that down a bit, but it started. I'm happy. I'm stoked with that. So that ECU will run this car finally. Yeah, so do these brakes and then we should be good. All right, just been going through and changing some values. I've got this ready to change. This is my mix trim. So what that will do is add fuel or take away fuel. So we'll give it a go now to start her up. Okay, I will just change that value there. We'll give it more fuel. It's in minus, so I'll set it to 0 and see what happens there. Doesn't like that. Okay, we'll go halfway somewhere. So I'm actually pulling 30% off my fuel maps. Okay, now it's running. Oh, if I take fuel away, no, not running now. Hang on. Smoking up a storm. You can see that's changing. That's actually sounding fairly decent. I've taken a lot of fuel out of that though. I think that's where I'm going to leave it until it gets tuned anyway. I took a lot of fuel out of it, a lot. But she's idling away, she's happy. So that's good. So I'll move on to the brakes now. She's still smoky a bit, but the tune will be able to sort all of this. Yeah, it sounded pretty decent there. I think that is where I'm going to leave it. Man, those fuel pumps are crazy loud. Just checking. The alternator's charging. Really not a fan of the way that pump sounds. But just letting it run for a little while, make sure everything's working. Seems not so bad. So I just noticed before that it's popped a fuse, so I've got a feeling that's the fan relay. So I'm just going to go through that wiring now and sort that all out, and then I just need to sort these brakes. I know it's a very repetitive story, but I just don't know. I do have an Rx3 master cylinder here, so worst case scenario we roll with that one, but I will get help on that one. The other boys will know more than me about brakes, but I'll get through this now, sort this out, then see how it goes. Okay, so as you can hear, the fan's going now. I'm just going to wait for it to cool down the temperature, see if it cuts off. It's supposed to cut out at 70 degrees at the moment. It's sitting at 76. So I'll wait until that turns off, then we know that's working, so that will be cool. Sweet, there we go. So that's working. That switch is causing a problem, so I'm going to disconnect that, and then we're just going to use the ECU to cool it down. I'm not going to have a separate switch. So I've just spent the last hour going through all the calipers and trying to bleed them all. There was a lot of air in there, but the pedal is a lot better, but it's still not where you want it, if that makes sense. So I may just have to call Dave and Dan to come give us a hand to bleed these. So maybe next day or two that will happen. Okay, so I'm happy with the ECU. I'm happy with it running, but still having issues with these brakes. Now I just heard that this master cylinder may be too small to pump up all this brake setup. It's all good for piston front and drum rear, but not for calipers all the way around. So the bore inside the master cylinder is not big enough in a sense. So I'm going to do a little experiment. I'm going to try and clamp off the rear brake line and then just pump the pedal and see if it builds up pressure, because it will only be activating the front brakes. And if that builds pressure, gives me a solid pedal, then that's our problem. Yeah. Okay, just gone and clamped the car up. I have put a clamp on the rear line, the brake lines. So now when we go and try the pedal, oh, it's perfect. Okay, so they're right. Master cylinder's too small for this setup. When we're pushing, it's not pushing enough fluid to feed all 4 brakes. So I could bleed it all day long. It will never have pedal. So yeah, dumb. Well, that's really unfortunate, but it is what it is. There's not much I can do about it at the moment. I need to track down a bigger master and then that will work. So moving forward onto this, this thing is actually running pretty decent now. Electric fans are hooked up and they're all working through the ECU, which is mint. So that's done. The alternator is now charging. All I did was loop that wire off the alternator there and just looped it back into the main power. And when you start it up and run it and runs, it picks up its charge straight away. So that's cool. The only problem I have, Hayden from Haywire Road Sport messaged me and he goes, this sensor here is no good. And I believe him, because last night I actually started this thing up and I ran it until these fans kicked in. So it got quite warm. And then when I went and checked the temperatures, the ECU one was reading, say, 80 something degrees. This one was reading 42. So not too much of a big deal, except I found out this water pump here, it actually pumps at different rates. So when it gets hotter, it pumps more. So that is actually going to be risky. If that's not reading right, this won't be pumping as hard as it needs to be, and it could be bad. So what I intend to do is drop this radiator back out, which really, really sucks. Take all this off. I'm going to move that sensor from there into the radiator. So that way we'll be closer with the temperatures. So it should be all right. That's pumping when it needs to, and the rest of that stuff. So that I have to do in the next week or so. Still haven't done the brake lines. Yeah, just been slack with that. And what else was there on this? Not too much. Oh, the stupid bracket here. It just keeps, the water pump keeps coming down, and I do have a small leak on this fitting here. So I will sort all that out in the next video, but I need to square this away today. Oh, I can't really do much more. Put it back on the ground, because tomorrow I need to stack an Rx323 Bridgeport engine. So I need the room. Anyway, if you made it this far, thanks for watching, and we'll be looking at this next.